if there has ever been an indication that One Piece is in its final arc, I would have to say it's this chapter. Because one of the most iconic and legendary characters, I would say, that's been name dropped multiple times since basically the beginning of One Piece, has finally had a reveal. Not a black silhouette, not something that's just vaguely shown and you can't get the full view of the character, but straight up, this individual on the screen identifies as Dr. Vegapunk. And just, when I read this chapter and I saw this reveal, I was just like, okay, yes, Dr. Vegapunk waifu, okay, yes. But it's a shock that we're even getting a actual panel of Dr. Vegapunk that isn't, like I said, a black silhouette. And when I saw this, I was like, man, we really are in the final stretch of One Piece, because this is a massive moment for One Piece. And let's talk about that, okay? Let's honestly just talk about what makes this reveal so insane. We're about to probably learn all about devil fruits. That's a big thing that people need to understand, is that ever since basically the beginning of One Piece, like when we started finding out a little bit more about devil fruits and stuff, we knew that Dr. Vegapunk experimented with putting, let's say, devil fruits into inanimate objects, for instance, like a gun or something, and turning them into a living creature. We have seen many forms and elements of this in these different experiments that Dr. Vegapunk has done throughout the story. We've seen crazy cyborgs, we've seen just crazy technology that Dr. Vegapunk has done to really help out the Marines, the Navy, etc. And so when you look at this reveal, you're like, we're probably about to find out maybe the origins of devil fruits, where they probably came from, how they're actually fully created, but also why Dr. Vegapunk even said that Momo's artificial devil fruit was a failure. And there's a lot of ways to look at it, and I'll talk about that in just a second, but that is just one major detail we're probably going to find out. We're going to probably find out more about Luffy's devil fruit, what Luffy's devil fruit really is, like what's really going on with his Nika Nika model devil fruit, what's going on there. I'm excited, but also there's a lot more to consider. I mean, we got to talk about, the Void Century. It's very clear that Dr. Vegapunk is incredibly intelligent, and they're probably able to figure out what has probably happened in the Void Century. They probably know what the One Piece is, probably through different theories and scientific theories, etc. They probably know what the One Piece truly is. And when you just look at everything, it's like, we're probably about to have a lot of lore and world building in these upcoming chapters, and I cannot wait. I am super freaking excited just for that alone because of this chapter's conclusion, because we're about to get it. It's gonna be so freaking awesome. And wow, I did not think we'd be getting into, like, an arc like this that's probably going to be focusing on Franky, probably. Like, we might get a little bit of character development for Franky, since we're getting onto an island that is scientific and it's with Dr. Vegapunk. That's going to be exciting. But obviously, we're going to get a lot of lore and world building, etc., which makes a lot of sense. Like I said, we're in the final stretches of One Piece, so it's about time we get a lot of answers to these questions and these characters that have been built up for a very long time, finally getting a full-on reveal. But okay, let's stop there. Let's talk about this design. Let's talk about Dr. Vegapunk and the overall introduction of said character. So, I think we can all agree we did not expect to see a waifu or female Dr. Vegapunk. I don't think any of us expected that. I know I didn't. I expected like an old man looking character, maybe an epic, cool looking old man character. That's what I expected. But that obviously was not the case with this reveal. However, there is something to point out with this page. If you take a close look at, Dr. Vegapunk here, that, self-proclaimed as, Dr. Vegapunk, you will literally see the Punk 02 on the chest here. And now, here's the thing. When I see that, I instantly start thinking of, let's say, stuff with, Sanji's family, with, Germa and the clones and all that type of stuff. And when I look at this, I instantly wonder if this is a clone of Dr. Vegapunk, which would make a lot of sense. I mean, with how smart Dr. Vegapunk is and the technology we've seen throughout One Piece, it would make a lot of sense that Dr. Vegapunk might have been able to clone themselves, or even make a female version of themselves. Yeah, hear me out. So, since we have a 02 here, it's very possible that the actual Dr. Vegapunk is a old man. That is something to think about. I feel like this is kind of like throwing us off the trail and making us think that, Dr. Vegapunk's a female, but in reality, he has clones that are, different forms, shapes, and sizes, because he can clone himself or create different cyborgs or androids or whatever. He's able to do something like that. It fits completely in line with the scientific genius, which that's another thing to talk about. Now, there is something that I do want to point out, though, with the dialogue of Dr. Vegapunk's introduction here. I work for the government, and despite basically my, mediocrity, I am called the scientific genius. And when I read this, it's like, this falls in line with what we've seen already with Dr. Vegapunk's character, with how Dr. Vegapunk is like, the devil fruit I made, that Momo, eventually consumed, was a failure. Which, everything we have seen from Momo, at least in the story of One Piece, the devil fruit he had that basically turned him into a dragon, nothing about it relatively looked like a failure. It looked like everything worked out properly. It looked like everything was working a-okay. It honestly did. And so when you hear a scientist say that it was deemed a failure, it makes you wonder, like, what's going on there? But maybe that was a trait, an early hint at who Dr. Vegapunk was. They're an individual that is constantly putting themselves down, feeling like they are not that good, and they're not really wanting to say that they, are really, like, making perfections or great creations. They don't want to ever say it's like 100% perfection, which would make sense with a scientist because they probably don't believe in perfection or things that can be perfect. They're always just seeking for the greatest thing or better things. And it also makes you wonder, where is the morals of Dr. Vegapunk? Which has been a discussion in the One Piece community for a very long time. Is Dr. Vegapunk morally gray? Is Dr. Vegapunk evil? Good? How far will Dr. Vegapunk push, experiments? Human experimentation. I mean, we think about Kuma, and how Kuma obviously was turned into, like, a cyborg/android, and he pretty much lost himself at the end. And when you think about how he was turned into that, even if he kind of agreed to it, Dr. Vegapunk still did that to Kuma, which shows that there is a lack of some areas of morals in Dr. Vegapunk's character. So, it makes you wonder what's going on here. What side do they really fall on? And are they fully on the government side? Or is Dr. Vegapunk using the government to be able to get funding for their projects and what they want to make? So many questions there. But the point is that the reveal here is insane. Absolutely an incredible reveal. And this arc is already looking to be incredibly hype just with this panel alone. This panel easily, if I was just given this panel for the chapter, I'd be satisfied. I'm serious. Even if it was just a one-page chapter, I would be satisfied because I'd be like, holy crap. But yeah, okay, so enough with that. Let's, so if we go up to the beginning of the chapter and all that, we actually will see the events taking place in the previous chapter where Bonnie appears as her child form, and you have the Straw Hats trying to save her, which reveals this giant monstrous enemy below the Sunny, which is a robotic shark. And I want to take a few moments to talk about this panel real quick, this entire image that Oda drew for this chapter. Very eerie and creepy panel. Like, legitimately, this is incredible looking artwork, and I feel like people really need to take a few moments to appreciate the beauty of this panel, of just the design, because it's scary looking. It legitimately is scary looking, and it really captures the essence of the unknown, the abyss, the deep, basically what's in the ocean that you cannot see. This entire panel perfectly captures that, and I love what Oda did with this panel. Even though he turned around and made it a little bit more comedic in the next page, I still think that this panel is a major highlight to the chapter. It doesn't bring a lot to the chapter, it's a great panel to showcase Oda's art style in a different way that isn't always, let's say, comedic like this. You get to see this very dark looking image, and I love that. I love when Oda experiments like this and he does little things like this throughout his manga. But okay, so basically, it's a robotic shark. You get already hints that it's a robot by seeing the punk on the side of it. You can literally see it written right there, which shows it's a creation of Dr. Vegapunk. But it was very obvious by what Zoro starts to say. He's like, it's made of metal and all that, and the way it is, it's just clearly not a normal entity. It's something else entirely. Now, obviously, Sunny tries to get away, and there's a little detail here that I think that people might miss, and some might notice and get a little bit upset with. This little barrel that comes out of the Sunny's bottom half. Look at this real quick. It literally has rabbit ears, it's a barrel, and it's being used to get out of the way. And even Franky calls it rabbit screw propeller. And if you haven't caught on to why I think this is funny, and why I'm even giving attention to detail to this, is that I feel like, I don't think Oda does, but it makes me feel like Oda looks at community Furies, and it's like, yes, I heard the community thinking that, Carrot was in a barrel on the Sunny and was hiding and was actually going to join their crew and be a crew member, like a Straw Hat. There was a lot of Furies, a lot of people making videos, etc., talking about that. And so, obviously, that has not happened. And then all of a sudden you see, like, rabbit ears pop out of a barrel, and it's just like, oh my goodness, did Oda look at the community's thoughts and Furies and do something like this? Because that's what I think. That's how I feel about the situation. It is pretty freaking hilarious, honestly, when I saw this. I wonder if Oda did that purposely. I really do. But, anyways, we got the Sunny kind of capsizes. It starts to sink, which is like, holy crap, are they going to be able to, get the Sunny back? And you see Jinbei have to jump in to save Chopper, Bonnie, and also Luffy. And it kind of sets up for the Straw Hats separating at the beginning of the arc. The usual that happens for an arc, which is sad, but it usually happens. But I guess it leads to character moments between certain characters that you don't normally get. So I could see why Oda does present that within the story. But, yeah, so we have Jinbei with Bonnie, Chopper, and Luffy. Really interesting characters to kind of be locked together, honestly. And I think that this entire segment, I'm skipping past some things with Bonnie, like, yes, and everybody's going to talk about that. But, you have Bonnie, basically say, what's going on with your wanted poster? Why do you have white hair in your wanted poster? What's happening? Are you really an emperor? And, Luffy just comments, it's like, it's when I feel the most free, when he's in Gear 5. And it's a really nice little interaction, a very interesting moment for Bonnie, because Bonnie has, I think, become a quick fan favorite character with the very few panels that she has been in, because she has a lot of mystery to her, with knowing a little bit about Kuma, being at Mary Jo and all that like she was many chapters ago, it leads to a lot of mystery of what's going on with her character, and there's been a lot of speculation for years, and even I've talked about it, that maybe she was a daughter of Big Mom. I mean, she had pink hair, she had some similar traits of Big Mom, being very hungry. There was a lot of things that kind of made you wonder if she was in some shape or form related to Big Mom. Obviously, so far that doesn't seem to be true. It could still happen, maybe, but overall it does not seem to be the case. But she's always been a character that people have been interested in, especially with her interaction with Zoro many chapters ago, before the time skip, when she, turned into a little kid and tried to protect Zoro from the Celestials. She's always been a cool character, and I really loved her character, and I'm glad we're finally getting more focus on her, and we're going to get to see a little bit more details about her, because she obviously knows a lot. She knows a lot probably about, the revolutionaries, like Dragon and all that, knows a lot about Kuma, knows about probably some elements of the Void Century. There's stuff there, a lot of mystery, and I also wonder how she even got out of Mary Jo entirely safe. Like, a lot of questions I have there. And, does she know about maybe what happened, really, to Cobra? Vivi's father. So, yeah, this is nice. I'm glad we're getting this interaction. We're getting to see the glutton Luffy with Bonnie. And even Luffy starting to call her, like, Boogie or whatever. Yeah, like, he calls her Boogie. Like, don't sweat it, Boogie. And that's funny, like, legit funny. And I also like how she says still, thanks for saving my bacon back there. Like, oh my goodness, I'm loving Bonnie as a character. Just great character. But, yeah, so then, Dr. Vegapunk basically introduces himself and is like, oh, you naive pirates and all that, I work for the government. It's nice, but okay, let's back up. Let's talk about this scene. So we get a little bit of an update on Koby and the kids from Caesar's Island, from Punk Hazard. I think that this is also really nice to see an update on the kids and how they're getting kind of smaller, and that they're no longer being affected by the candy that Caesar was continuously giving them, and they're just getting the proper treatment they need. And I mean, we get also Helmeppo and how he's upset that Koby has been taken, and he's begging his superiors to help. Makes sense. He's formed a bond with Koby. We got Hibari. Has she been introduced? Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Please correct me. I don't recognize this character. I don't know if this is the first time the character's been introduced or not. If it is, okay. If it hasn't, I need to go back and read. I really do. But, regardless, like this character, Hibari, and it seems like, people are just rallying and wanting Koby to be safe, but clearly at this point in time, they really can't. The only way to save Koby is to go to Blackbeard's island, his home turf, and get Koby back. So, that's probably not going to happen. Which also brings into question what's going on with, Im-sama and all that from the previous chapter with eradicating an island. Why don't they just eradicate Blackbeard's home island? Like I said, there's a lot of mysteries about that if they have, let's say, Uranus and all that, or Uranus, if you want to call it that. There's a lot of, questions. So, yeah, this is a good chapter. Legitimately good chapter of One Piece. I cannot wait for the next chapter. Wow, it's exciting. Like, we're entering into a good time of One Piece. But okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you enjoy my content, do leave a like, do subscribe, helps me out. But with that, be safe, stay healthy, Chibi out.